Yes. Very good evening to everybody. Please do join us today. I'm just going to give everyone a few seconds to come in and settle down. A very, very warm welcome to all of you from the British Council on joining our thematic webinar today. Today's theme is law. So I'm assuming everyone who's joining us today is either studying law right now or wants to study law and legal studies in the future, either in India or in the UK or generally abroad. And I hope this webinar today is going to help you make some of those decisions about what you should study and how you should go about it. We have a fantastic panel, as always. I say this every time, but it's true every time. We have a fantastic panel with us today, and the panel, they're basically experts. This is what they do. They support international students who want to go to the UK, but also we have faculty and we have professors who teach at the UK university, so they know all about what is required from a student who wants to study law in the UK. Can you study if you come from a different background? What kind of scores do you need? How competitive is it? Do you need any entrance exams? What are your career options besides just being a lawyer? So any of those questions and more, we're going to be able to help you out today. A quick note on what the format of the program will be before we go to the panel. We're basically going to hear from the three universities that we have here with us today. We have University of Bradford, University of Sheffield, and the University of Warwick. We will hear from each of those universities. They will each present, but we'll break in the middle for questions. So if you have specific questions for the universities, please put that into the Q&A box. You'll see a small speech bubble on the top of your screen with a question mark on it. That's your question box, and you should put in your question there. We'll make sure to publish it, and then we'll make sure that your question is answered. If you have a specific question for a university, please do mention that your university. If it's a more generic question, then I will take it to anybody in the panel, and hopefully it will get answered. We're going to make sure it's interactive, that all your questions are answered, and that really it's a useful session for you, and you go away knowing what you need to know to make those decisions and to make those applications and start your research. Without further ado, let me quickly introduce the panel that we have today, some of whom are already here, and a few of them will be joining a little bit later. We have with us the University of Bradford. We have Professor Pedi Obani, who is Assistant Professor, School of Law. We will also have with us Jayashree Chaturvedi, who is the Regional Manager for South Asia and Indonesia from University of Bradford. So welcome, Pedi, and I think Jayashree will be joining us soon as well. We also have with us the University of Sheffield. We have Dr. Navjyoti Samanta, who is Lecturer in Commercial Law, and we have Samreen Khan, who leads on Sheffield's work in India. So welcome to both of you. Thank you for joining us today. And we have the University of Warwick. We have Amarjeet here, who is the Student Recruitment Officer. Hi Amarjeet, it's good to see you again. And we will be joined shortly by Andrew R. Johnston, who is the Professor of Company Law and Corporate Governance. So he'll be there to present for Warwick as well. So on that note, I don't know, so please just to quickly repeat that please put in your questions in the Q&A box. We'll make sure we have them answered. This is, I think it's really a fantastic opportunity. We're going to leave it to the experts to answer your questions and to tell you all about studying law. And feel free to ask any kind of question you want to. I think I can speak for the professors here that there's no such thing as a stupid question, and we'll make sure that we kind of help you out there. On that note, I'm going to request Professor Pedi Obani from the University of Bradford to please turn on your camera and share your screen so we can start with the first presentation. After this, we're going to break for questions and then move on to Sheffield and then so on.
Thank you very much for your introduction. Please, can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Great.
I'll just try to put it in slide mode so that it's
yes. We need it on the slide.
Yeah,
you're good to go.
Thank you very much. So welcome again, everyone, and thank you for being here. Over the next few minutes, I'll talk you through the University of Bradford. essentially, where are we in Bradford? For those of you who may not know much about Bradford, I'll just give a little introduction about where we are in Bradford, and then I'll give an introduction into what the University of Bradford is like, where our students come from, just so that you see that as a reflection of so many countries across the world already studying in the University of Bradford. And then I'll move on to the School of Law, the programs we have in the School of Law at the undergraduate level and also at the postgraduate level, the kinds of academic requirements we need from the students, and the kinds of courses you can study with us at Bradford, and of course, the kind of support we have available for you. So where is Bradford? And why Bradford? Bradford is known as the first UNESCO city of film in the world. Bradford is also one of the youngest cities in Europe, with 29% of the population under the age of 20. It's the UK's most improved city as far back as 2019, but it's also surrounded by a very beautiful countryside, and it's considered the curry capital of the UK. So you see, in Bradford, we boast not only about the physical environment, but also a rich cultural heritage, as well as an environment that allows you to experience a good quality of life. Now, the University of Bradford itself in 2020 was named by the Times and Sunday Times as the UK's University of the Year for Social Inclusion. And this is not surprising because we also have students from over 175 countries across the world. In addition to this, we have key partners in 61 countries, countries in Europe, in the Middle East and the Gulf, in East Asia, Americas, and Africa. And of course, South Asia as well. Now, for the School of Law, we're committed to nurturing ambition and excellence. And how do we do this? Why should you choose the Bradford Law School? It's a modern law school. We're always innovating. We're very committed to ensuring that we not only teach theoretical aspects of the law, but we ensure that there's a practical experience of law in action for our students. We also try to make sure that the learning is personalized to reflect the students' priorities, to reflect what the students want to do with a degree after graduation, but also to reflect the students' learning capacity and capabilities. This just means that in the end, we have students that are ready for work. So it's not only about the theoretical aspects of the law, but it's also about employability, it's about a career, it's about supporting you to experience learning in a way that suits your personal needs. And if you look at the news, you'll see that Bradford has been in the news for all of these innovations. So for instance, the Bradford Law degree has moved up national rankings. We've had in last year, we had the mock court unveiled by Lady Hill, who was then UK Supreme Court President. And just a few weeks ago, we had a student from the law school who won a car from participating in the mock trial competition. So there are lots of exciting things going on in the School of Law, in addition to the degree you get from graduating with us. Now we have partnerships with both professional and industry partners. And what this means is that we're able to offer placements to students with all of these partners that we have. And again, this enriches the learning experience for our students. Now, down to the programs at the undergraduate level, we have the LLB Law, we have the LLB Law with Business and Management. We also have a BSc Business Studies and Law. And each of these programs has the option of a placement and sandwich study abroad option. So essentially, you could decide to study the program in 3 years or in 4 years. And if you decided, for instance, that you wanted to go and study abroad or you wanted a placement option, that is absolutely fine. So what are the unique features of our programs? We have the dedicated placement opportunities, like I mentioned in the previous slides with the partners. We also have a careers boosters program that is dedicated to ensuring that we are able to imbue skills that improve employability for our students. And then we have the mock trials in collaboration with law firms. We have the state-of-the-art mock courts. We have study visits for our students. Right around the corner from us, we have the Bradford Police Museum, which again shows the rich history of policing in the city of Bradford and has relevance for other aspects of understanding criminal law and how the law works in practice. And then we have a clinical legal education program in place for our students. And this is reflected in the way the students review our program. So we've got very good reviews from our students, reviews around how participating in the law clinic has enriched the learning experience. We also have reviews around how studying abroad has enriched learning experience. So there are lots of good things students have to say about the program. And we hope that you'll be one of those saying these good things when you join us. Now, for the postgraduate level, the LLMs, if you want to do a master's program in law, we also have a rich array of programs. And what are the features of these programs we have at the postgraduate level? First, it is open to both law and non-law graduates. The programs are also interdisciplinary. There's a huge focus on employability. We have careers advice, skills advice, not only for a legal profession. So if, for instance, you decided, well, I've studied the master's program in law, but I want to do something beyond law practice, we also have tips on how to go about this. We have studies around not only established areas of law, but also emerging fields. So issues around artificial intelligence, technology, cutting edge issues are covered within our curriculum. And then, of course, our learning is contextualized. And this means that while we're located in the UK, we ensure that our curriculum actually reflects the priorities of our students wherever they may come from across the world. So we ensure that the knowledge is contextualized such that if you decided after studying to go back to your country and to work there, you will still find the degree relevant in a very practical way. And of course, we have an international cohort of students, we have excellent teaching, and then we have flexible delivery. When I go into the distance learning programs, especially, you'll understand what I mean by flexible delivery for the master's level. Now we have 100% student satisfaction from the postgraduate thought experience survey. Again, this is a reflection of the features of our LLM programs. Now, what are the programs we have on offer? So there's the on-campus module or model where we have the LLM International Commercial Law, we have International Human Rights and Development, we have LLM Natural Resources and Environmental Law and Policy, and we also have LLM Legal Studies. Now, if you decided, for instance, that you wanted to do any of those LLMs but you didn't want to come to the UK to do it, that's also possible because we have a distance learning program for each of these LLMs as well. Now, there's both full-time and part-time option if you're on campus. There's also the full-time and part-time option if you're away studying from a distance online. In terms of entry requirements, we have a requirement of a 2.2 or above in any subject or relevant work experience at graduate level. There's also the English language requirement of IELTS at 6.5 band. But again, there's the option of taking the University of Bradford pre-sessional English course. So these are all requirements which we can discuss how to meet them in terms of entering the programs. Now, for the structure of the LLM, the academic structure, we have 2 semesters. So there's the January intake for the LLMs, that's a master's program, but there's also the September intakes. And this applies both whether you want to study on campus or by distance learning. Now, if you study on campus and you study full-time, then you would be able to complete in 12 months. But if you do it part-time, you'll be able to complete in 24 months. Again, if you start in January, you're able to complete it in 15 months. But whereas if you started in September, it will be 12 months. So we have all these variations, and these are the elements of flexibility which we mentioned. Now, when you study in our LLMs, you're not only allowed to pick law modules, and not only law modules in your area of specialism, but you're also able to pick one module from any other area of interest. So this means that you could decide that you wanted to pick a module in peace studies, for instance, which is not in law, but it's a department in the University of Bradford. So we have options for you to study not just law modules, but other modules that could enrich your learning experience as well, and of course, improve the quality of your degree. Now, for the distance learning, just to give a bit more information about this, it is delivered exclusively online. But again, like I said, it mirrors the on-campus LLMs. But you also have an opportunity for both synchronous and asynchronous learning. So synchronous learning means that while it is online, we do not just let you read the materials and leave you to your devices, but we also organize sessions that you actually have one-on-one with the course lecturers. So this means that you're offered support all through the program, even though it is a distance learning program. And it is very suitable for students or people who have busy schedules. So not just full-time students, but also professionals who may want to study part-time. So in Bradford, like I've mentioned, we have so much to support you with as My Bradford, which offers advice on anything you need in relation to your academic studies. Then we have a dedicated student finance team. We also have academic skills to support with academic work. And within this, we teach things around presentation skills, language skills, how to do critical thinking working as an academic. So all of these are embedded in our academic skills support for students. And then we have the careers advice, which again reflects the careers boosters program and other advice even outside of that program. We have disability services. We have on-campus parking, just in case you won the car from the motor competition and decided to drive it to campus. There's space for you to park. And then we have a 24/7 library, which means that you can access library materials anywhere you are on campus or off campus, 24/7. And then we have a personal academic tutor assigned to you individually who supports you all through your journey as a student in the School of Law. We have social amenities for sports, fitness centers. So all of these are extracurricular amenities and activities that enrich the learning experience for our students. So with this, I've given an overview of the programs we have at the undergraduate and postgraduate levels, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Betty. That was so useful. I'm going to request you to stop sharing your screen and come on video. That's perfect. And if I may request the other universities to also come on video, because there's quite a few questions and I was thinking we can take them to everyone. Betty, if you want to just come in on the first one, I'm going to pick a question from the middle. This is actually, I think a question that will resonate with a lot of people, which is around, I'm about to complete my BTech from IIT and I have realized that's not my cup of coffee. So want to know whether I will be eligible to study law in UK. I imagine a lot of people would have started studying something and then realized that, maybe they want to study law instead. So how possible is that coming from a different stream altogether?
Yes, thank you very much. So, do you want me to comment on that question?
Sorry.
You want me to comment on that question,
yes,
right?
Yes.
I mean, thank you very much. That's absolutely possible. At the undergraduate level, there's a lot of flexibility around who can study law. And once you're able to apply and get the requirements at the level, it's not about whether you started out with studying English literature, those kinds of things. No, there's a lot of flexibility at the undergraduate level. And also at the postgraduate level, there's also flexibility. That's why I mentioned in the presentation that both law and non-law graduates can actually study with us. So there's all that flexibility, at least in Bradford. Thank you. And I think that applies to most UK universities as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. That's really useful. Yes, Navjyoti, please come in.
I have a follow-up question on that particular question, which was raised by the student who is completing his or her BTech. Is the student looking for pursuing a postgraduate degree in law or an undergraduate degree in law? Because depending on that, PG. Yes, PG is possible. However, I would advise the student to take modules which are less law focused and more focused on, let's say, technical issues relating to law, for example, intellectual property law or something like that. Because postgraduate degrees, as you can imagine, would build on the knowledge which students generally gather in their undergraduate. However, it is absolutely possible for someone to pursue LLM degree without doing an undergraduate in law, but of course it will be difficult. It's not simple and it's not that easy. Yes.
Actually, you're right. He hasn't mentioned if it's postgraduate or it could. Yeah. So I think your advice is really useful there. Yeah.
Can I add a follow-up to
yes, please.
For the postgraduates? Yes, just to say that. So we in Bradford, because we know that it's open to both like non-law graduates and law graduates, we also have a foundation of law skills program, which everyone has to go through. So it means that if someone's coming in without that law background, you're able to, you have to go through that module. It's not necessarily counting towards your degree, but it gives you that, basic knowledge and understanding that would then enrich the learning experience for the other core modules, in law. And like I said, we also have this interdisciplinary focus. So we actually have students who are maybe from engineering and, so we've had students like that, and it's all reflected in the way the modules are designed. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. I'm going to bring the next question to Navjyoti again, please, if that's okay. How can this, I can imagine this being a very common question. How can studying law in the UK benefit Indian students? Can we practice law in the UK, or can we practice it back in India after studying there?
Again, couple of follow-up questions. Some UK undergraduate law degrees are recognized by BCI, the Bar Council of India. So students who have those degrees or from those particular universities, they can practice back in India. However, there are only about less than 20 universities whose degrees are recognized by Bar Council of India. So I would advise the students to choose the universities carefully before committing to any particular university. So just go to the Bar Council of India website, look at the foreign degrees link, and there would be a PDF document which would provide you with the names of the universities whose degrees are recognized by Bar Council of India. If I remember correctly, there are only about 20 universities or less whose degrees are recognized. If you have now coming to the second part of the question, if you have done undergraduate in UK, of course, if you pass the UK's version of bar exam, which is the solicitor's qualifying exam, which is starting out this year, then of course you can practice in the UK. And if your aim is to join one of the larger firms in the world, let's say the Magic Circle firms, then yes, a UK LLB degree would be far better way of attempting to join those law firms rather than through the Indian National Law School environment. I'll just take 10 seconds more, because if you want to join the Magic Circle firms, they do recruit from the Indian law schools, but they only recruit from the national law universities and only maybe 3 or 4 students at most from the top end of the law school in India. But if you do your LLB from the UK, and if your marks is good, more than 65%, then you can apply for the Magic Circle firms. And most of the universities in the UK would provide support to students who do apply for these kind of law firms. Thank you.
Excellent. I think that was very, very useful. I hope that helped the student. Amarjeet, if I can bring you on, please. Can you give us some guidance in general? I think there are some kind of general questions coming up around, do we need to give an entrance exam? What are the entry kind of requirements like? What do we need high marks? Are the entry requirements the same everywhere? What are the entrance exams? How long are the courses for? What's the duration? Could you just maybe give a quick recap that can just help students navigate those quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having Warwick here in the session. So the answer to that question can be divided into 2 parts. Entry requirements for undergraduate law courses in the UK and entry requirements for the postgraduate courses in the UK. For undergraduate courses, students can just apply regardless of their school background. So they can simply apply for LLB programs. Some universities may ask for LNAT scores, but many don't. So again, going back to what Samantha said, look at the individual university's webpage. But most of the universities offering LLB programs at an undergraduate level do not require you to have LNAT score, but some do require you to have LNAT score. So that's the answer for the undergraduate courses. The answer for the postgraduate, again, it will vary from university to university. For Warwick, you will need to have an academic background in law to study an LLM at Warwick. So again, it varies from that. So this was academic entry requirement. Most of the universities will also ask international students, including students from India, to demonstrate proficiency in English language. Some will look at your 12 scores, and if you have scored more than 85, they will exempt you from taking English language tests for undergraduate courses. Some universities, even if you have scored more than 95% in your 12th English, will still require you to have an IELTS as well. So, for example, at University of Warwick, if you want to study an undergraduate program at law, we will look at your 12th English, and if you have scored more than 85, we will exempt you from having an English language test. But if you want to study postgraduate program at Warwick, LLM program, for example, you will have to take IELTS and obtain minimum 7.0. So I do apologize that there is no one answer to this question, but the answer is to research individual university entry requirements.
Exactly.
But most of them will exempt IELTS, and most of them will not require LLAT, if that helps.
Excellent. That is really useful. I'm conscious there are a lot of questions coming in, but I'm going to go on to Sheffield's presentation. Just a very quick, just round robin on at the table. Are we open for campus recruitment? Can I come to Bradford first? It's just a yes or no. Perry?
Yes.
Yes. For Sheffield, please. No,
we generally don't have on-campus recruitment. However, we are open and we do a lot of career fairs, a lot of webinars, and the companies come in, they talk to you, they tell you how to crack interviews, how to apply, and there's full support, as Sam mentioned. The professors will give you full support, their website subscriptions, etc., but not like on-campus internships or support for the interviews.
Right. Warwick?
Same as what Samreen mentioned. So the campus recruitment in India is different from the job market in the UK. So yes, lots of support, but jobs are not guaranteed, but we will help you a lot.
You have to go through the process. I know. Yeah, exactly. We'll come to that in a bit. There are some questions around the BPTC. There are questions around specific. There are some very specific questions for the university. So I'm going to request everyone to have a look at the Q&A box a little bit and answer the questions wherever you can. I'm going to invite now Jyoti Samanta, Professor Samanta next to please present for Sheffield. Please do focus on entry requirements, fees, and those kinds of things as well, because a lot of questions are coming around that. But over to you, Professor.
Thank you, Athray. Welcome to this presentation on School of Law, University of Sheffield. We are, as the name suggests, based at the city of Sheffield, which is quite close to Manchester. Our focus at the University of Sheffield is on three things. First is academic excellence. Second is integrating real-world experience with the lectures. And finally, providing a global education in law and criminology. So in the next few minutes, I'll try and explain each of these things. So the first thing is we are a Russell Group university. So it's the Russell Group Law School. So to provide a comparison of Russell Group University in the Indian context, so you can compare it with the national law schools in India. So just like national law universities are generally considered to be the top few schools in India, so Russell Group universities are generally considered to be like at the top of the university league in the UK. There are around 20 or 25 Russell Group universities, and Sheffield is one of them. In terms of research, we have been in the top 10 UK universities. I think we were number 6 in the last Research Excellence Framework, which was done in 2014. Another Research Excellence Framework is being compiled right now, and we hope to be in the top 10 universities in the UK. So what this shows is that we are doing very good research, world class research, and we also have award-winning teaching. So we get the best scores in various kinds of teaching framework, etc. So not only do we have a very good research background, but we are also very good in teaching our research to the student. Other than that, you would also have a lot of opportunities to gain experience during your studies, and I'll just explain how. So thank you, Samreen. So what are the benefits for Indian students to study law at Sheffield? The first thing which I would mention is that University of Sheffield's or Law School Sheffield's degree is recognized by Bar Council of India. So I'd again emphasis on this point. If you do want to come back to India and practice in India, then yes, please do check if the university where you're applying for their LLB degree is recognized by BCI or not. This other thing, which I think I have already mentioned, is that a law degree in the UK would open various kind of avenues. So you can apply for jobs apart from the law firms. If you want, you can apply for accounting firms, you can apply for financial firms, you can apply for management firms. There are lots of opportunities which you can avail if you do a law degree from the UK. In fact, many of my colleagues say that law in UK is like Swiss Army knife degree. You can use it in so many different fields. So yes, this is one of the most important advantage of doing law in the UK, LLB in the UK. Specifically for Sheffield, we do not require the LNAT score. Some universities do require, but we don't for our undergraduate. And finally, we are fully an international law school. We have students from more than 30 different countries in our undergraduate and over 40 countries in our postgraduate. Next slide, please. So here is a brief overview of our undergraduate course. One is the straight LLB. And then we have law with language programs. So law with Chinese law, law with Spanish law. So in these programs, the course would focus only on not only on the UK regulations, but also on jurisdiction specific regulations. So for example, LLB law with European and international law would focus more on international law and European law. But of course, if you do this degree, any of these degrees, apart from BA Criminology, you would have the starter LLB degree in the UK, and you can apply for SQE, which is like the bar exam in the UK. So just like we have All India Bar Exam in India, we have SQE, a Solicitor's Qualifying Exam in the UK to become a solicitor. And of course, there are some training requirements which we can discuss later. So apart from BA Criminology, all the other degrees are recognized LLB degrees for appearing for the SQE. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is an interesting thing. So as you know, in India, law degrees are for 5 years, so you have to study for 5 years. But in the UK, law degrees are only for 3 years. However, if you want, you can study in another country for 1 year, which is like a year abroad. And University of Sheffield takes in around on an average year, we take around 250 to 270 students. And out of that, almost 2/3 of our students opt for a study abroad program. So between their second and third year, they would go to one of our partner universities, and we have over 60 countries where you can go and study. There are over 200 universities with which we have tie-ups, and you can go there, study there for 1 year, come back, complete your third year or fourth year, and then appear for the SQE, etc., etc. We do have partnerships in India as well, student exchange partnerships with a couple of national law universities, NUJS, and I think it was National Law University Delhi. So with those two national law universities, and we also have tie-up with Jindal Law School. So if you are from India, you have studied for 2 years in the UK, and then you want to study in India for 1 year in order to, study some of the Indian subjects, then you can go there, Jindal, NUJS, or National Law University Delhi, study there for 1 year, and then come back, complete your fourth year in the UK, and then you'd have studied both UK as well as Indian regulations and laws. So study abroad program is one of the most important feature in Sheffield, and it's really helpful. And we find students who do opt for study abroad program, they're actually academically better than the other students. Okay, postgraduate taught courses. We have LLM program. We have several streams of LLM. LLM corporate and commercial law. I am from corporate and commercial law background, so I can talk a bit more about LLM corporate and commercial law. So if you have any questions, you can ask after the end of this presentation. We also have a few other streams, for example, international law, European law, etc. We also have an MA law program, so students who are generally who do not have undergraduate in law, if they want to study postgraduate in law, they can do MA law. They can also do MA international criminology. Sheffield Law School is one of the very few law schools in the UK which has criminology. We are, I think, within the top 3 criminology law schools in the UK. It's one of the oldest or second oldest criminology law school. So yeah, if you are interested in criminology, Sheffield is an excellent place. One of the very few places where you can have MA in international criminology. However, I can always say about my own course, LLM corporate and commercial law is also quite good, very good in fact. Next slide, please. So what can we offer? So we do offer a personal and academic tutor for both our undergraduate and postgraduate students. We offer a variety of pro bono schemes, and this is where you can use your your theoretical understanding of law and use them in practice. So it's like the legal aid societies in India. So Sheffield has a very good pro bono scheme where there are solicitors, there are qualified solicitors, and you'd help those qualified solicitors within the law school. So we have com law, where basically questions relating to commercial laws would come, and you can help the solicitor to draft opinion or help people who are facing questions in commercial law areas or company law areas. Then there are the other pro bono areas like employment law, so you can help draft petitions in employment law tribunals, etc., etc. So it's an excellent system which really helps students to apply the knowledge that they are learning in a practical way and also helps someone. We have very good employability and skills events, which Samreen has already mentioned. We provide open days for law firms, and yesterday I got an email from one of my students who got into one of the Magic Circle law firms, and she said that she'd be happy to come back to the law school and give a presentation. So we have an excellent alumni network as well, which helps you to gain insights into applying for various Magic Circle law firms, etc., etc. We also have a very vibrant mooting culture. We have our own moot court. So yes, if you're interested in moots, definitely Sheffield is a place where you can apply. We also have in-house support to gain, professional skills for SQE. We have also partnered with some of the professional universities like University of Law in order to provide you more mentoring support. And finally, we also have e-mentoring scheme, which would really help you to gain those required skills. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are some of the student societies. Just like in India, there are various societies which you can join. Sheffield has a bar stock society where students who want to be barristers in future, they kind of come together, coalesce together, and they share study tips, applications tips, etc., etc. Criminology society or criminological society, they are generally students who are interested in criminology. Then EdgeRAP is more like, general purpose student society. And then, of course, there are some specific societies where students who are interested in those areas are would join. So yeah, it's a very vibrant university. Students Union in Sheffield has got like the best Students Union award for like 10 years at a row. So yeah, definitely we provide a lot of extracurricular and co-curricular support. So this is just a comment from one of the law students from India, and she says that she found the course really well. Each year we would have at least 3 or 4 students in undergraduate who are from India, and in postgraduate the number would be a bit more. So yeah, I mean, we have around 20 students from India, and that's it really. And I want the session to be more interactive. So if you have any question, I'd be happy to answer them. As I said, sorry. Yeah, I mean, if you have any questions, just let me know.
Thank you so much, Professor Samantha. There are some questions. I wanted to bring 2 of them to you. One was actually, let me just go back to the questions a little bit. Okay, what sort of employment opportunities are available in research and academia for a student who does a LLM in the UK? And what sort of support do universities provide with respect to such employment and opportunities?
Right. So someone who is doing his or her LLM would get a lot of support from the university regarding his or her dissertation application, or regarding publications, etc. So we do support students who want to pursue higher education beyond LLM. So your personal tutor would help you in creating an application for your PhD degree. We also provide like scholarship support. So there, all the Russell Group universities would have at least 3 or 4 fully funded scholarships in general. Some of the universities would have more. Some universities would have specific scholarships for law. I can talk from my own personal experience. I did LLM in the UK, and then I did my PhD in UK as well. Both were fully funded by scholarships from the university. And of course, the universities did help throughout the journey. So yes, if you are aiming for a higher degree after LLM, then yes, definitely the universities would definitely help you in that journey.
A more generic question, this one is around what are the, just sort of generally speaking, without going to specifics of the scores needed and the entrance exams, etc. What are the requirements for Indian students who have studied Indian law to practice law in the UK?
You have to do the SQE exam now. Previously, there was something known as qualified QLTS, Qualified Lawyers Transfer Scheme, but from this year, they have stopped QLTS and they have SQE. So the requirements for SQE is a bit different. So I would strongly suggest that go to the SRA webpage. SRA is the Solicitors Regulatory Authority, which is like the Bar Council in the UK. They have specific requirements for lawyers coming from outside the UK, and I think it's quite self-explanatory, the SRA webpage. So you have to give bar exam, the SQE, not the bar exam, sorry, the solicitor's qualifying exam, and there are certain requirements of experience now, which was not there with QLTS. Okay. So yeah, just have a look at the SRA webpage.
Yeah. Thank you. There are some questions coming in for Sheffield, which Samreen is answering. I'm going to ask you one last question and then move on to Warwick. I'm conscious of time. What is the benefit of a UK LLM degree in India?
The primary advantage would be it's a 1-year degree. Secondly, when you have studied, let's say, in a university in India, and you come to the UK and you do your LLM, you get exposure to a different way of learning and teaching, which is quite different from India. So that's, I think, the most important experience that you can get or gain. So you have studied for 5 years in one environment, and then you come to another environment, and if you can thrive, then you can say that, you know, it's easy for you to use those skills and go back to India and improve. And of course, it would depend on your CV, it would depend on your career goals, your aims as to what you want to do with your LLM. So for example, if you want to teach, there are universities which would take you on. If you want to progress in your law firm career, then yes, LLMs would help. So again, it's difficult to give a general answer, but
I
would say LLMs do help.
Brilliant. That's really useful. I'm going to do something. I'm going to bring on Warwick, but just to tell all the students, what I'm going to do is after Warwick is done presenting, I'm going to go around to all 3 universities and ask them to recap some of the key things that I know you want to know, which is around for LLB and LLM, what are the scores that are needed, what are the fees that you need, and what are the timelines that you need to keep in mind, because there are a lot of questions coming on that. So just rest assured that we'll ask every university, even if they've covered it in the presentation, to recap that for you. I'm going to now invite Professor Andrew Johnston from University of Warwick to please welcome, first of all, Andrew. Thank you for joining us. And if you want to just maybe put on your video and share your screen, it's over to Warwick for the last presentation.
Hi there, thanks for having me. I'm just going to start trying to share my screen now.
No worries. Yeah. Yep, we can see it. You just need to, yeah, perfect. That's good.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Thank you. Okay, so good morning, everybody from the UK. Good afternoon in India. My name is Andrew Johnston. I'm a professor of company law and corporate governance at the University of Warwick. I know Dr. Samantha very well because I was his PhD supervisor. So hi, Sam. Today, I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about my research area for a few minutes, which is corporate governance and sustainability. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about how it feeds into teaching on our LLM program at Warwick. And then I'm going to give you just a quick overview of LLM programs and Warwick Law School. So I'm a professor of company law and corporate governance, and I'm researching into corporate governance and sustainability. So a couple of slides just for me to talk to. Really, what should companies be doing about sustainability? I think this is one of the most pressing issues that's facing global society at the moment. As we all know, the economy is not sustainable and that we're facing existential threats from climate change. We also know from various fields of research that value chains are producing adverse environmental and social impacts. So we have a massive problem. We have the problem that the economy is not sustainable. And at the same time, we have companies, shareholders, creditors who say they want business to be more sustainable. So the question that I address in my research is how this should happen. And I'm going to take you through the kind of the broad contours of this debate. So corporate governance as a system, as a thing that I teach to my students, puts considerable pressure on companies to maximize short-term shareholder value. So, for example, executives are paid by reference to the share price. Companies are threatened with takeovers. In the UK right now, you can see large numbers of companies facing takeovers. Corporate governance codes, you have one in India, we have one in the UK. They structure the board of directors so that they will hold the executives accountable to the shareholders. And generally, since at least the 1980s, shareholder value has been accepted as the main goal of corporate governance. Now, one paper that I've written comparing company law around the world highlights how directors have a very wide discretion to take account of sustainability. So directors are allowed to manage their businesses so that they are more sustainable, but they don't use that discretion. So company law kind of becomes irrelevant. And there's no point in changing company law to allow directors to consider sustainability or to require them to have regard to sustainability. Equally, we can't introduce rules. As lawyers, we always think we could just introduce some regulation that will make things better, that will make things more sustainable. But when we have global problems, when we have trans-border problems, we can't easily use regulation. So on to my second slide, what should be done about this? So this is this slide just summarizes the debate that's taking place in Europe, but also more globally. Should we rely on corporate social responsibility? I know that in India you have provisions in your Companies Act that require corporate social responsibility. But will market forces, when we talk about corporate social responsibility in the UK, we're talking about market forces. Will they force companies towards more sustainability? Or is CSR just some kind of marketing that doesn't really have anything to do with the harms companies create? The second possibility is, should we rely on shareholders to drive sustainability? That's certainly the approach the UK is taking, and also the approach that the EU is taking. But this has been going on for a really long time. My research, I would trace this back to the early 1970s, and I would say it hasn't really succeeded. I'm going to cut this short here, and I'm going to say the third possibility is we could change companies' responsibilities. We could impose procedures on them. And right now in the EU, there's a debate about imposing mandatory due diligence, that is requiring companies to carry out due diligence, to look at their value chains, to look at their impacts, and to make plans to mitigate those impacts. And this is a very live debate at the moment. The European Commission is considering a proposal to require companies to carry out due diligence. And I've been doing research on this. I've been lobbying for changes in this direction. And last but not least, we could think about wider changes to corporate governance. Who has control over companies? Shareholders, directors? What about other groups? What about employees? What about other groups that are affected by companies? Okay, so in these two slides, I've given you an overview of where I go with my research and where the debate is at the moment about corporate governance. All of this research feeds into my teaching on the Warwick LLM. The next two slides are going to introduce you to the modules that I currently teach. So the first one is regulation of mergers and acquisitions. And this slide summarizes what I do. So in a sentence, it's a critical approach to the conduct, regulation and effects of takeovers of companies in the UK and in other jurisdictions. Now, because our LLM is a global program, we don't only focus on the UK. We may begin by exploring the UK situation. We may begin by exploring UK regulation, but we then branch out and we look comparatively and we look globally. So I say takeovers are very important influence on how companies are run, and they have significant implications for all kinds of groups of people. And so when we look at takeover regulation, we need to ask, whose interests does it protect? How did that regulation develop over time? And should it be reformed? Do we agree with how the regulation looks? So that's a specialised module on regulation of mergers and acquisitions. I'd also teach on a module called International Corporate Governance and Financial Regulation. I'll deliver the corporate governance part, and my colleague, Professor Dalvinder Singh, will deliver the financial regulation part. And here what we look at is the interface between banks and finance and corporate governance. And we look at how corporate governance pushes for shareholder value, and we look at how financial regulation tries to bring the public interest back into the banks. Obviously, following the 2008 global financial crisis, people began to realise that there was a conflict between corporate governance and the incentives given to management and financial stability and the public interest in sustainable finance. So the research that I do feeds into the modules that I deliver, which give you a critical account of how companies are being run, how companies are taken over, and how companies are regulated. That's probably enough about that. So let me now just give you a brief overview of our LLM programs at Warwick. Well, we have 5 broad programs. The first 3 on my list are what we would call corporate, commercial and economic law LLMs. So there's the LLM in international commercial law, the LLM in international corporate governance and financial regulation, and the LLM in international economic law. If you choose one of those programs, then you will do a core module that has the same title as the degree. I'll be delivering the corporate governance and financial regulation one. And then beyond that, you will study 5 more modules. You have a fairly free choice from a whole range of different commercial, corporate, economic, financial modules. On the other hand, if you wanted a more general LLM degree, you could take advanced legal studies, and this will give you a completely free choice of 6 modules. If, on the other hand, you wanted to specialise in international development law and human rights, we have an entirely separate programme with a whole suite of modules looking at law and development and looking at human rights. So whichever programme you take, you will be studying 6 modules, and then you will be writing a dissertation under the supervision of a subject specialist. So essentially at Warwick we have 2 terms full of teaching. The first term just started this week. The second term starts after Christmas. And then in the third term, you will work on your dissertation under the close supervision of your supervisor. So why should you do law at Warwick? Why would you want to come to Warwick? Well, it's consistently highly ranked. University and Law School, the University of Warwick ranked 62nd in the QS Global World Rankings, and the Law School came 39th in the world in Times Higher. Warwick's unique selling point is its law in context approach. We take a critical, global and comparative approach to law. We don't just teach you what the law says, we look at how the law impacts on the world, and we look at how the world feeds back into the law. We like to think we have a wide range of cutting edge modules. We allow you to specialise your knowledge and skills how you want. We have small class sizes and we give you extensive feedback on your work. We're very supportive and friendly. So you'll have close contact with leading academics in the field that you're interested in. This will help you improve your legal and research skills. You'll be invited to research seminars and lectures by staff and visiting academics. And you'll have classmates from all over the world. This will let you learn about different cultures as you enjoy our beautiful campus. Our graduates are in high demand. You're going to be highly employable. We send our LLM graduates off to a whole range of careers, from law firms to government to NGOs to financial institutions, and as Dr. Samantha said, into PhD studies as well. And by becoming a Warwick alumnus, you will join our alumni network and have lifelong connections with your classmates. We've got a couple of scholarship opportunities. If you're interested in applying for LLM, you can apply for one of 2 LLM scholarships, which have been confirmed for 2022 entry. You should apply for those by the 31st of March 2022. You can get more information from our website on this address. So if you want to find out more, you can visit our website, join our Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn if you prefer to get information that way. If you've got further questions, there's an email address here, but Amarjeet and I are going to be hanging around answering questions now. So thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Professor Johnston, and that wraps up the presentations. But now comes the interesting part. We're going to answer all the questions we haven't been able to so far. If I may invite all 3 universities to please come on camera. I'm just going to just kind of start throwing questions at most of you. If I may come to Warwick first. Amarjeet or Professor Johnston, whoever wants to take this one up. There's a question around practical training, and that's something I'm going to bring to the other universities as well. What sort of emphasis and how many hours, for example, do you spend on practical training when it comes to your law courses, and how is that kind of incorporated into your courses?
Shall I take this, Amarjeet? Well, our LLM is primarily academic. I mean, all UK universities run LLMs which are primarily academic. So what we're teaching is primarily research skills. We're primarily giving you deep legal knowledge about complex technical fields, and we're teaching you how to organize your knowledge and how to find out answers to difficult questions. If you want practical training, you can take part in mooting, you can take part in other sort of voluntary activities. We run a law clinic, we also run human rights lobbying, human rights writing. There's various forms of kind of activism. So there is scope for practical training, but this would generally occur outside of the formal ambit of the LLM program. Thank you.
Professor Obani, can I come to you next? And then I'll go to Sheffield after that.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's a similar response I would give, but just to say there's a difference if it's at the undergraduate level or at the postgraduate level. Because, for instance, we would have the law in community modules where students can actually have hands-on practical experience. And like I mentioned in the presentation, we have collaborations with law firms where students can actually have placement opportunities. And then we also have collaborations with the Citizens Advice. So all of those give, depending on the kinds of practical experience they want, like hands-on opportunities, you know, to interact with partners who are law firms or who are, say, Citizens Advice. So more like hands-on in that sense. But of course, you know, without a law degree, you can't practice law just yet. So those opportunities are there. The mooting, the law clinic is there. And then the clinical legal education is also a core aspect of how we teach. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Samantha, can I come to you? You did talk about a very active culture of mooting in at Sheffield. Anything else you want to add to that in terms of practical training?
I just reiterate my point about pro bono, which is like the legal aid societies in India, and Sheffield has pro bono. Sheffield has com law, where questions relating to commercial laws come. Then we have like in pro bono, we also have employment specific solicitors for employment. So as Paddy has mentioned, students cannot represent the client yet because they haven't done their law degree yet, but they would do most of the paperwork. They would learn how the law is being implemented, and they would take the single client throughout the journey. So that's really helpful. It is one of the important things in UK law schools, where students are always encouraged to take part in pro bono activities. Com law, so com law is like commercial law, pro bono for employment law, etc., etc. So yes, that's the only avenue of getting practical experience while still being in the law school.
Great, thank you. I'm conscious of time, but there are a couple more questions I want to get through. Amarjit, if I may call you on, do you want to tell us a little bit about the BPC? I think it's called the Bar Practice course. Is that something you offer at Warwick? Any information around that would be helpful. If you could also touch upon any student exchange programs, because there's a question in there for you on that.
Yeah, so thank you very much. So for the BPC, I think at the moment we probably don't have the provision, but there are only a few selected universities, and I think there's a landscape around BPC changing as well. In terms of the exchange program at an undergraduate level, yes. So School of Law and University of Warwick has been collaborating with a range of schools and universities across the world, where the student has the opportunity to undertake a study abroad, a student exchange in year 3, which basically is between year 2 and the final year. I hope that answers the question quickly.
Yeah, definitely very useful. Thank you.
Yeah, just to jump in on the BPTC, this is the postgraduate qualification that students from around the world often take in the UK before they go back to their home country. And most law schools will offer you a law degree that gets you ready for BPTC. So you have to meet minimum entry requirements. So spending a year studying contract, a year of tort, and so on. So our law school prepares you for that, as does Sheffield, I know, and I'm sure Bradford will too. We don't send anybody on a year abroad, on any time abroad during the LLM, because it's very intensive. It's 12 months of like full-time work, basically.
Yeah. I can imagine it's very intensive. Amarjit, I'm sorry again to come back to you, but this is something I just thought you could help us with. What would it be like for differently able students to study law in the UK? I wouldn't imagine it's very different from studying anything else, but what sort of support does a UK university provide differently able students?
Being an international student myself and having learned about how UK universities operate, I can proudly say that UK universities are at the forefront of providing mental well-being health support to all students. So for example, at Warwick, we have a dedicated well-being support service for all students, and students with any disability needs, special needs, will have one-to-one support provided. So for example, in the change of format of the exams, or it could be a special arrangement for library services, dedicated provision and facilities available at accommodation services, so that they are that their experience of studying an academic subject is not compromised whatsoever. So at the time of making application, applicants will have the opportunity to highlight if they need additional services, and then the university will contact them in terms of what support there is available. But I would definitely encourage them to go on individual universities' webpage like Bradford, Sheffield, and Warwick.
Yeah.
We have health and well-being services specifically available for different services needs. I hope I've answered that question, but
I think you
I'll
have.
invite any of the speakers to add if I've missed anything.
Yes, please do. Sheffield or Bradford, if you have to add anything to that, I do agree that the UK is at the forefront when it comes to being able to support differently able students, so you'll be in very good hands. I'm going to come to Professor Samantha for the next one, and then we're going to go into the quick snapshot of the exact, the kind of details and the niggling things that you wanted to know. Professor Samantha, we keep getting the question around, when people are, I think, trying to wrap their minds around the fact that obviously law is different in every country. How do you study law in India and practice it in UK? How do you study law in the UK, practice it in India? What if you want to live in a whole other country in the world, which is in India or UK? What happens to your degree then? Is it still useful? So how does that work in the world of studying law?
I think that's a fantastic question, because laws would change from country to country. I mean, if you study physics, the physics would remain same wherever you study, but of course law would change. And that is why if you are doing law from another country, you have to be very careful as to what your future plans are. Most of the countries around the world would recognize a degree from the UK. And you can, with a UK degree, you can still go and practice in the US, for example, which is one of the most difficult markets to break in. But you can only practice in certain states, not all the states. For example, you can practice in New York after passing the New York bar exam. I think you can practice in Wisconsin as well, and perhaps in California. So there are very few states in the US which would allow you to do or practice law with a foreign degree. Now, same thing in India. For example, if you come back with a UK degree, you have to be very careful as to whether that degree is recognized by Bar Council of India. So yes, to answer your question, if you are planning to practice somewhere else, if it is within the Commonwealth of countries, then yes, UK law degree would be definitely valid. You can kind of be certain that it would be valid. Outside the Commonwealth, it becomes a bit more tricky. Unfortunately, one of the disadvantages of Brexit is we still don't know what is going to happen after 3 years with the UK law degree. Would it be recognized outside the UK in continental Europe? We don't know. Maybe things would change. Maybe it wouldn't. But with law, you have to have some forward planning. That would be my conclusion.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I think, as you said, UK degrees are globally recognized. So you are sort of on safe ground with that. I'm going to now come to Professor Obani. Just if you could, if possible, recap for us for LLB and LLM. What are your approximate fees? What are your approximate requirements? And what are your approximate timelines that students can note?
Thank you very much for that. I mean, I'll just add to what Samantha had just mentioned. Also, the fact that with the law degree, you also thought about critical thinking, right? So, in addition to the texts that we teach, there's also the element of how to think like a lawyer, how to address legal problems and all that, which cuts across different jurisdictions. So that's also something to consider, especially at the postgraduate level. Now, in terms of the fees for the international students at the undergraduate level is 16,895. And then at the postgraduate level, it's slightly higher. It's about 18,000 something, but all of this information is available on the website of the university. Again, in terms of the timelines, it varies because like I mentioned, we have the on-campus, we have the distance learning, we have the full-time, we have the part-time. So all of this information is available online as well. But speaking on an average for the undergraduate level, I think it's the same for most universities. It's 3 years, 4 years, depending on whether you want to do the placement and the study abroad. But for the postgraduate level, if you start in September, it will be 12 months full-time. But if you then start in September, but you want to do it part-time, that makes it slightly longer. Again, if you start in January, it's 15 months full-time. But if you want to do it part-time, that's again slightly longer. For the distance learning, it's a lot longer because it's a distance learning. So it also means you can't do as many modules at once. So for the distance learning, if you do it full time, is 16 months, which is also similar to if you were doing the on campus full time, which was 15 months. But if you do it for the distance learning, if you want to do it part time, you're also allowed to do it to complete within 4 years. So you have between 2 years and 4 years to complete the distance learning. So all of these variations are there, but it's well spelled out on the website. You can get the full information. I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Professor Samantha, if I may come back to you for the Sheffield information. Again, please do visit the website if you've forgotten to note anything or if we have missed anything. But just a quick snapshot from you, Professor Samantha.
Yeah, I mean, international fees are a bit higher in comparison to the home fees. So for undergraduate in Sheffield, it's around £19,000, just tuition fee. And for postgraduate, it's around £20,400. Then there would be living expenses, which would vary, but usually they are between the range of £7,000 to £8,000.
Would you like to comment a little bit on the kind of requirements in terms of scores? Do you need them to be very high, or what sort of requirements do you have?
So for undergraduate in the UK, we are looking for AAB, which would translate to around 80 to 85% in +2 level. For postgraduate, for LLM degree, our entry requirements vary. So for someone who has done undergraduate law, we are looking for around 60% or more. And for English, there would be different kinds of requirements. So usually we are asking for IELTS a score of 7. However, as Betty has mentioned, for students who have fallen below that IELTS score, there are ways of going for some courses which the universities provide, which try to bring up the English speaking abilities and English. Basically, the language skills can be improved, but again, there is a 6 months or a 3 months course depending on the IELTS score of that particular student. I hope that answers the question.
I think that's really useful. That's quite comprehensive. I'm going to come to Warwick now. Amarjeet and Professor Andrew, do you want to just cover the basics that students need to know about applying to Warwick?
Andrew, are you happy for me to answer that question? Is that okay? All right. So for undergraduate programs at Warwick, the minimum entry requirements is 90% or above from a 12th standard CBSE, ISE board, or 3As or IB 38. The fee for undergraduate courses at Warwick, the undergraduate course at Warwick is a 3-year program. So the tuition fee per year is £21,220. And it's a 3-year program. There are some merit-based scholarships available for undergraduate courses, ranging anywhere from £2,000 all the way to the full tuition fee. These are merit-based. and there's a scholarship application form as well. For postgraduate programs, it's a one-year program, as Andrew already mentioned, they're very intensive, and the minimum entry requirement will vary from university to university in India. So we have categorized universities in India based on our own formula and lots of other research. So depending on which university you're applying from in India, our entry requirements vary from 60% all the way up to 75% minimum. And the fee for our LLM program, I'm not sure if we have announced for the 2022 intake, but for the 2021, it's £19,300. But again, on our pages, we are working to update them to include fees for the next year, and they should be out very, very soon if they are not already.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, Amarjeet. And I think that pretty much covers most of the questions. I think we've covered the more existential questions around, can I study law if I, didn't know I was necessarily meant for it from the beginning, as well as the questions around, the different kinds of laws across the world and how that would be managed through a course in a particular country. I hope that answers everyone's questions. Thank you so much for staying beyond the hour. I appreciate that. We've all had long days in front of a computer for the most part. So thank you very much for staying beyond the hour. Big thank you to the students again for joining us. You're going to get an email after this with all the contact details that you need. You're going to get a recording of the video. So you can get in touch with the universities directly, pick up the conversation where we left it, and get more of your personal questions answered, just to see if you are a right fit for these universities for your law course and any other questions you may have. Thank you very much for joining us. We have the festive season starting next week, so I wish you all the very best with that. I hope you all have a good break. And a very, very big thank you to the UK panel here today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting the students. Thank you for patiently answering all their questions. I think that was tremendously useful for them. So thank you, everybody. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Arthur. Thank you.